Hey guys, what's up? It's your girl Dev, and today we're going to talk about account progression. And this is going to be one part of my multi-part series as we talk about the different types of accounts and where you should be and at what stages. And it's kind of like a rough estimate, right? So everyone's going to have different versions of this kind of guide because of the fact everybody has their own unique focus. Either they focus on fighting, or they focus on progressing their account in resources, or just gathering a crap ton of troops. And then you've got those that either are free to play, the mid spenders or the low spenders, the mid spenders, and then your high whales, and then your Krakens. Okay, so there's definitely different tiers of account progression because of those different levels. And in this guide, we're going to cover the different progressions through the KvKs, right? So KvK 1, pre-KvK 1, KvK 2, by pre-KvK 2, pre-KvK 3, and then Season of Conquest, where you could pretty much expand from there. And as long as you're making your account in progressive increases, it's going to help you. This is really going to compare to some of the other guides on where your account should be because of the fact they've decreased the time between KvKs, so now you have less time. But now there's a chance that you can actually get your troops back. I'm not 100% sure at the time of making this video if they've put that out yet, but they did mention that you're going to be getting about 50% back is what Heroic Anthem has, and in the Season of Conquest KvKs. Not sure if they're going to do 50%, but whatever percentage they're telling you that they're going to get back, it's anything is helpful, because after fighting in so many different KvKs over the past 2 years, I've got like 8 million dead. And a good portion of that is from garrisoning and rallies. So those troops could have been troops I could be in my account, at least half of it, right? So it's 4 million troops I could be fighting with now, but I don't. Let's go ahead and kick this guide off. So sit back, guys, and enjoy the ride. All right, let's go ahead and start the first part of this series when we're talking about the pre-KvK season 1, kind of like you're prepping for season 1. And we're going to start with like free-to-play players, and we'll slowly work up the guide. So it's going to kind of go progressively, and you'll kind of catch along. Now, the first thing we want to start with is really about the type of commanders that you're focusing on. And as a free-to-play player, remember, you should only be focusing on like 1 or 2 commanders at a time, because if you focus on too many at a time, then all of your sculptures and stuff that you're putting in these commanders aren't going to really help you and benefit you, because most of the skills that you're working with, they're really effective either 5-5-1-1 or 5-1-1-1, or like a mixture and a combination. But then it comes back to, you're only really effective when they're fully expertised. And that's where you get the most value. I'm not saying you can't use them beforehand, but you should be able to focus on a couple of commanders at a time. And by entering into KvK 1, you should have at least 2 or 3 expertised commanders. 2, definitely, for sure. And there's going to be a lot of events and different things that you can push into your account to help progress. There's a couple of small events that you're going to get those universal epic sculptures from, and you want to make sure you're completing these events. For example, they have these events right here that have the Byzantium Empire, and you complete these stages here and you get access to those like little crowns, and you can buy sculptors. Right here, you can buy specific commander sculptors. That way it'll help you increase your chances of getting those commanders. And again, I'll go back to make sure you're focusing on a specific kind of commander. Get a cav one, get an archer, and get an infantry. If you're just infantry, just focus on those infantry ones. There's only a few, but everyone should have Joan of Arc in their arsenal, which is a universal commander type, and Boudica as well. But really think about how you want to push your account. There's plenty of guides out there for those types of commanders you want to focus in. Now, moving forward to more of the low spenders, you're going to follow more of the free-to-play. You're only going to have a few. The mid spenders, you might have a couple more. And you're just because you're going to have access to the VIP and have a chance to get those universal ones, you're also going to have a chance to progress further in your expedition, which provides you more epic commander sculptures. And then you've got the whales and the mega whales, right? You can't just spend your way to get the epic commander sculptures, but you will have a higher chance because you'll either be in higher alliances that provide those epic commander sculptures, and then you get them from the VIP chests as well. So there's a lot of different ways to get the sculptures. Of course, you're going to have a lot more than just epic commanders as a whale or even as a Kracken type player. Or even as a mid spender, you can still have access to more legendary commanders. And then the early game, you really need to remember going into season 1 KvK, you're not going to have YSG right away. YSG isn't going to be available until right before the passes open for the level 4 passes, if I'm not mistaken. It's either right before or right after. And most people like to expertise him right away because his versatility in the early game is exponential. Like, you can use him everywhere. But you're also going to have Richard, which he's a great, just, good tank. And that's right when the Charles MGE happens is when you get the YSG. So there's a good commander pair right there for a garrison. But you can get Charles in the gold key. And if you are a low spender free to play, don't ever put legendary commander sculptors in gold key commanders ever. Like, that's just the standard part of this guide. But moving along, okay, so you're gonna have a couple more as an expertise on a heavy spender whale account, but try to stay away from like the gathering commanders right away, and stay away from really of any command. Like, Caesar's not that great of a choice. You'll be surprised that actually Mina and Tao Tao do very well in season 1 of KvK. There's a couple other commander pairs you can do, but there's plenty of season 1 guides and some of the other content creators, so I'm not going to go in depth. But that's pretty basics, alright? So that's going to cover all of the commander part of what you should be at pre-KvK season 1. When it comes to talking about your power and where you should be at for pre-KvK, it's hard to say. Most free-to-play players, you guys also need to be focusing a lot on just leveling up, getting your troop counts high enough so you can have at least 2 to 3 open field marches that you can refresh a few times. I know that's very hard for a lot of players. It is something that a lot of people struggle with, is getting more troops so that they can fight. And remember, you won't be doing a whole lot of open field fighting as a free-to-play or low spender in the early game, because you're also going to be outmatched by mid to whale players that spend a lot and have T5, and you're running around with only T4 or a low amount of T4, sometimes maybe even T3 depending on how progressed your account is. When it comes to the mid spenders, you're going to be focusing a lot on your troop counts, getting the 5 marches, full marches with troop expansions, and also going to be on gear, because you're going to have a few commanders, but not enough to really say, oh yeah, I'm going to make a huge difference. Well, when you enter the further seasons, you're going to have a better chance at those commanders. But pre-KvK season 1, you want to have a couple of pieces of gear. They don't have to be legendary, and you shouldn't be crafting legendary unless you have full sets of the green and epic gear. And I say that because the gear will make a difference between, a certain amount of how long an attack lasts, how long you're fighting, and your sustainability in those fights. And you have a lot of options. Like, I have accrued a lot of these chests, right? And I don't spend, so I don't really have a chance of getting these, but there's so many new events coming into Early Kingdoms that give you a chance at more equipment and more materials. So those mid spenders, you need to be focusing more on the gear and equipment to getting that to the epic gear and maybe 1 legendary gear, maybe 2, but really start to focus on the epic and getting special talents on those. I know they're revising the system, so I don't know at what point this year they're going to be revising it, but if they do revise it, make it easier to crit, that's great. but always get a full set of everything for your commanders first before you start crafting the legendary gear, just because of the amount of resources it takes and materials. Moving on, the whales should have more of the legendary gear. They have access to the legendary gear through the VIP. That's a great option. It's going to take you a while to get the gear, but if you want to focus on a specific one, try to get one set or one specific piece of gear for cav, one for infantry, one for archers. It depends on how you're building your account. And then you'll help your equipment building with that, depending on, where you're going and what direction. It's really about who the strongest kingdom is, and they pretty much rule the map anyway. Now we're going to move into the next part, which is really the final part, and that's going to cover pretty much everything else. When it comes to buildings and technology, you don't really know where you're going to be at. But for those low mid spenders, you're going to be towards the bottom end. And I know a lot of kingdoms put power restrictions on going into KvK 1. Most of the time I see about 10 million power, sometimes 15. I know that you guys aren't at that level, and if you are, that's great. It's hard, okay? It's hard to compete as a low spender or as a free-to-play player in those seasoned strong events, but you should be conserving and pushing in one event every couple events. When I built my account originally, I did spend heavy in the beginning and then tapered off and didn't spend any for a couple of months. And I understood the struggle. You see these bundles pop and you can't buy them. I get it. But you restructure your account, because mine was a huge heavy hitter account. I mean, it still is. I love killing my troops off in garrisons and fighting and stuff. But your kill counts are going to be lower because you're going to be filling rallies and garrisons. And that's just kind of how it is, because you'll get squished super easy in the open field. And that pretty much applies across the board, across all KvKs. But going in with a couple of commanders will help you, and your technology in the early game should be really focused more on just gathering. I know it's weird, but you're going to need those resources for T5. I always built my account on first focus on the gathering tech, and then you can slowly progress on the war tech, because it's like 70 and 80 to 115 days long for some of those technologies. So it's going to take a while. But then you want to remember that you need books, so be joining those rallies. I know it's going to be easier for the, the spenders and stuff, because they can just gem it. You do need to focus on getting your VIP up to VIP 10 and higher, obviously, for those mid to high spenders. But those different brackets, 10, 12, 14, and then 16 is the next really big jump for when it comes to technology assistance that it provides. But yeah, so this is kind of where your account should be at about this stage, which is between either, I already discussed, the 10 to 12 million power, and then 15 to 20 for those mid-spend or low spenders. Mid-spenders should be easily in the 20 to 25 million, maybe even close to 30, borderline 30. And then you've got those whales that should be already T5, and then the mega whales, which is your Krackens and stuff that are already like 100 million power and millions of troops, right? And that's going to wrap it up for this guide, as we talked about KvK Season 1, before Season 1 really, about where your account should be at. Now, we talked about the different levels, commanders, gear, tech, all that stuff. We talked about it all, okay? The next guide is not going to be as long, I promise, but it's a progressive guide that's going to adapt to your account. And I will be more than happy to help you and guide you into a good direction and a path forward for your accounts. You can check me out in my Discord in the link of the description below. I don't normally like DMs, but you can always reach out to me or ping me in chat, and I'll help you out in building your account. This is probably one of the more exciting guides, but then it's not going to be the same for every player. Everybody has their different levels of playing and how much they spend and what levels they spend and where you should be putting money. But it's hard to make those assessments and those decisions, but making sure that if you are spending money, that you already met your means and it's just play money to play around with. But again, that's it for me, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe to see the rest of the series and content. It's going to be fun and exciting talking about this stuff. And again, no two accounts are alike. But that's it for me, guys. So for now, just keep it real.